Hey, this is Allie Edwards, and today I am going to be working on Project Life for April 2020. Obviously going back in time a little bit, and as I'm sure many of you can understand, this has been an interesting year, and I'm just rolling with it. I'm rolling with it for this project. I'm rolling with it for all my projects. So I want to show you, here's just a brief, let's go back in time a bit. You can see these, I think at least a couple of these are available as videos either on my blog or on YouTube. Started out with the 2020 transparent page here that I made with a bunch of number stickers, full page photo to start it off. I've been doing a lot of 6x12 inserts here. Ended up doing some storytelling there on a 3x8. Then coming into February, where I kept the same design for each one of these. And this was actually, there's a template that's available on my blog if you want to download it. Love how that turned out. Super simple, very clean, great way to get the stories told. I felt like that was in February. Then March turned out looking a little bit like this. I used, again, a repeated card that was included in one of the digital story kits. And then just a big write-up kind of how, you know, how and when things changed in March. So moving into April, what I did is I, again, sat at my computer, opened up my April photo folder, still in Aperture, and looked and said, okay, what do I have to say about April? And what I ended up deciding that I wanted to do is I printed out a bunch of different photos. I have two that are 6x8 back to back that I'm going to add in with a page protector. This one is super funny because this is actually Anna laying on top of the table, and this feels like what April felt like, but this photo right here with one of our cats hanging off of the screen also feels like what April felt like as we kind of all tried to make sense of what was happening. April feels like a month that almost didn't exist in a way, because so much of it was just lockdown, right? Just quiet, just stay at home. I mean, quiet is in quotations. Stay at home. You know, March was the month when those orders, at least for us here where I am in Oregon, came into play, and then April was just a month where we were like, what planet are we living on right now? So that's kind of how I'm thinking about April as I'm diving into it. So I added just word art on the top. I added my caption that was from Instagram. And then the other thing that I decided to do was, when I was looking on Instagram, and you know, many of the photos that I have here, 3x4 and a couple 4x6s to add into this Project Life for April, many of them are from Instagram, and they had captions with them. And rather than adding the captions on or having separate journal cards, I decided to try something a little bit different in this project. And I'm also thinking right now about hole punching. Actually, it's going to go inside of a page protector. That's what I'm going to do. I simply copied and pasted from Instagram. So on my browser window, I went to Instagram /Allie Edwards. I'm able to pull up each of my images. I'm able to see the date that they were posted, and I'm able to simply copy and paste them onto a document here. So that's what this looks like. I didn't do a lot of editing on these. I also didn't include every single post that I had in April. Some of them are business related things that don't necessarily need to go into this, but I picked out the ones that I wanted to include with different kinds of stories that I wanted to include. Some of them you can see are a little bit longer, some of them are shorter, some are directly going to relate to photos that I have in here, and other ones may not have a photo going along with it. So this is kind of my starting place. I am going to put a full page insert into this one to go along with April. I am going to add this in as a 6x8 full page, and I think I can just pull one of those out from over here. I'm going to add something on top, you know, some sort of embellishing is going to happen on this one, but I haven't decided yet what that's going to be. But this will just, actually with these ones, I think I need to punch holes. I thought that they, oh, it works if you do it right in the middle. Okay, I couldn't remember. It's been a while. This is what happens when you can't remember. Okay, so this one is gonna needs a page protector, and then I'm gonna figure out how I want to include all of these. I might need to add in another insert. Definitely want to get some pictures of masks. I happen to take a few different photos of myself over the course of the month, which feels interesting to me as I reflect back on what was happening. I'm also using pieces from the April Stories by the Month kit. This is part of the physical subscription. These designs are available digitally as well, and kind of just gonna decide which of these do I want to use? How is this gonna fit in? Like spring cleaning, stuff like that, I don't feel like that really happened here this year. Some of those things, like the normal things that we have gone about, whether it's something like that feeling for spring cleaning, or if it was that the transition to summer, it's like some of that just didn't really exist this time, at least in the ways that we were used to it. And I'm talking specifically just about our family and the way that we move through the times, but some of that may make sense for you as well. So figuring out how I want to add some of these guys in, some of the cards. This is also the month of Easter. We actually didn't have kids here for Easter, so we didn't do anything Easter related this year. And I know for some people that's probably like shocking, but that's just where we are at right now in our own situation. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to figure out how many of these 3x4 photos do I have. I want to use many of them. I'm also considering maybe not using the quote card here and potentially adding in, I had one other 4x6, but I might end up using that just on another insert because I think I'm going to have more 3x4s. So I'm going to dive in. All right, so going ahead and kind of laying out my 3x4 photos and figuring out how, do I need another page protector, or how many of these am I actually using? I have no problem filling in the majority of the pockets with photos. You can see I have the one 4x6 quote card that was in the April Stories by the Month, and then I will add in a couple additional journal cards from that April Stories by the Month kit on one of the inserts there. The 3x4, 4x6 photos, in this case, when I went back through and looked at all my pictures, or all the different pictures that I had from April, there was just a lot of this, right? A lot of being at home kinds of images, and really the main story is just about acclimating to staying at home, I think. And that definitely comes through in the journaling that I did do and copied and pasted from Instagram. So that comes through, I think, fairly clear in that big spot of journaling there. And I think it's totally fine to have, sometimes where you are, where you've got all that journaling all together. Sometimes in Week in the Life, I've done it that way where I have all the journaling all together, and other times I have spread it out. So a lot of it is just you kind of figuring out what works best for you. So as I started the process of figuring out what kind of embellishments I wanted to use, I did pull out the new Ups and Downs collection that released a couple weeks ago. And it definitely felt like the sentiments that were included in that kit made more sense for the stories that I'm telling from April. Some of the April Stories by the Month things were like spring cleaning and those kinds of stories, which I feel like in a normal year would have been more applicable. But this year, I know around here, it didn't feel like we were really diving into spring cleaning in a way that we had in the past. So the sentiments and embellishments from the Ups and Downs collection definitely felt like they fit in here. So you'll see where I'm adding a few of those embellishments, specifically the embellishments onto my photos. And then I also grabbed other things that were out on my tabletop from past either add-ons or story kit products. Just kind of, there's always something sitting on my desk. And oftentimes when I'm working on projects like this, I am just literally grabbing the things that are on the desk and being like, okay, what can support this story? Like those
fabric. There were fabric words there. There's a few different ones. I added them onto another photo in a little bit as well. For this one, though, for me, it really just started feeling like, okay, I just want to add some things onto the pictures. It doesn't have to be any kind of design formula, but I'm going to pull from these things, pull from the Ups and Downs kit, pull from a few of the different embellishments that I had on my table already. And that seemed to make sense for me and the overall story that I was telling. So adding chipboard pieces, maybe adding some label stickers. I think I'm going to talk about that in just a minute here with some audio that was recorded at the time when I was standing at the table. When I do these videos, I always have kind of a mix of voiceover recordings as well as recordings at the table. So again, the next part of the process is really just kind of figuring out what kind of embellishments do I want to add onto my photos.
Okay, so I am back at my table. I finished up, the majority of just getting everything into the page protectors, figuring out where all of my photos were going to go. That's what I did yesterday. I also started adding on a few embellishments. Some are from the Ups and Downs collection. Some are from past story kits or add-ons. I'm kind of just grabbing stuff that is on my desk. And I stopped yesterday because I was kind of like, okay, where do I actually want to go with this next? In this case, this is one of the ones that has, a lot of the journaling is all in one spot, right? So I feel like I can kind of check that box, like here's a decent story overview of what happened during this month. I'm going to add in a little bit of handwritten journaling there and then on this side too. But other than that, it's basically just adding embellishments onto the photos and figuring out how much do I really want to add on. I think it could easily just be the photos with the words, right? It could easily just be this with a few things added on, which might be what it ends up, but I kind of am thinking about label stickers, which are something that I always love, and so I have kind of a big stash of them from ones we've offered in the past. I believe there's still a set available in the shop too that I think includes some of these yellow ones. This was from a Week in the Life sticker book, so kind of just pulling out all of my labels because those are one of my favorite things to add on to photos to give a little bit of context. So I walked away from this yesterday because I was like, okay, I don't really know what I want to do, and I was feeling the pressure of like, oh, I need to make something super creative. When in reality, what I think would be best for me, and this is kind of what happens with this every time, is if I just added on a few extra things, add on some label stickers, give a little context to some of the photos if I want, and then just add a few additional embellishments here and there and probably call it good. So I guess maybe I just needed a little bit of permission. I needed to give myself permission to just move forward with that plan and not feel like I need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to this project. And I think that, depending on what kind of a memory keeper you are, how many different projects that you have maybe going on at one time. I work here in Project Life on a monthly basis, or I'm doing monthly storytelling here, but I also do other layouts that are all influenced by the different story themes that we have in our story subscription. So each month I'm doing 4 projects for whatever the theme is. Like this month's theme, I believe, is Rome. So I did 4 projects about travel and or roaming. So then when I get to this point, I'm kind of like, okay, I just want to add a few things on there because this is a different kind of story than I'm telling in those other projects. So that's a lot. That's a lot to simply say, whatever way you do this is fine. And if you go through phases where you barely want to add anything extra on top, that's fine. And if you go through phases where you're wanting to do bigger layouts or more traditional kinds of layouts and you're wanting to play with design more, that's fine. And if you want to do art journaling, that's fine. And if you want to do traveler's notebooks, that's fine. I think for me, it's always been figuring out what is the, how can I continue on in this lifestyle? How can I have longevity here? How can I, keep it interesting and or meaningful to me? And sometimes just adding on a few embellishments is good enough, especially when I have the full story told. Anyway. I'm just talking to you guys. So what I'm going to do next, I'm just going to dive in. I'm going to stop trying to overthink it and just play with label stickers, because those are one of my favorite things to use. Add those on there, add a few additional embellishments, and call it good.
All right, so in my quest to add a few other embellishments and fun things on here, I just kind of looked through those products that I had laying out there. So I'm using some of the puffy stickers, I'm using some of the paper die cuts from that Ups and Downs collection. I'm going to use some of the word phrase stickers, just kind of a nice collection of things that can support, I would say, stories from all kinds of different times and places, but definitely seem to work well for this April time period. I don't know, I might use some of them, some of the products in May also. It just kind of depends on once I look at my images and kind of see what was happening. In our own household, we have really maintained kind of the quarantine, social distancing for the whole time. And so that's just been our personal family choice. And we have some people that we are wanting to protect, and everybody's just doing the best they can, right? And that's kind of what we are doing as well. I had a photo there of a Zoom call with all of our creative team, which was super fun. So I just added on a chipboard piece to that. On the 6x8 photo there of Anna's actually, well, you can see Simon, and then Anna's actually laying on the table. So I wrote right on to the picture itself there and had an arrow that I drew down to her. On the other one, the backside of that is a 6x8 photo of the girls in their bedroom. Most of their schooling, when it went all online, they did a lot of it just by sitting in their beds. I think when we go back for the fall, and I don't mean go back, physically go back, but when they need to start school again, we usually start after Labor Day here. I think we'll probably be doing most of the school sitting at the table downstairs. So that'll be another kind of adjustment. But here, using a combination of a label sticker, the paper die cut from the Ups and Downs, and one of the puffy stickers from the Ups and Downs, just to make a little collection of embellishments there on top of that photo, talking a little bit more about distance learning. The next photo with the cat hanging on the screen, I decided just to leave that. I had, I added a little bit to there, obviously, before I printed. With this 6x8 insert, I was able to group some of my photos together. The other side there has some home projects that we had already started back in March that we were able to complete in April. And then on this side, I've got the garden updates there. I was thinking I was going to use this April Memories card, or I punched out as a circle, and in the end, I didn't end up using it for no other reason other than just I changed my mind as I was going about trying to figure out what I wanted to put on top of my photos. But again, I kind of used a combination of, label stickers from past releases, along with other pieces from the Ups and Downs collection. And again, keeping it super loose, not following a strict formula. Sometimes I do follow a formula when I'm embellishing like this, but I think it's just a nice reminder that there aren't rules with this, right? And I think for me, I've kind of mentioned a couple times as I've been talking today related to this project, but giving myself the opportunity to just add a few embellishments and have that be okay, and have that be enough for me right now, I think is important. And it's important for each one of us to have that. If you're super into doing lots of embellishments and lots of other things, that's totally cool. Go for it. Definitely this is a you do you kind of thing. And I'm going to do me for right now like this. And then at other times, there are different ways that I approach these projects too. So I think that that's a nice reminder. I'm super happy to just have the month at a glance and be able to have a home for the photos that I have taken over the course of the month that don't necessarily have to go into with a longer story or have a longer project with it. So that's been good as well. Using some of the word phrase stickers there from the Ups and Downs collection, there was a sticker bundle that has some cute hearts that I also added the word phrase sticker on top. I think the one that I chose to put on there was Be Brave. That was one of my first pictures with the mask on, and one of my first outings there in April, I think, to the grocery store. where I wore a mask and did that kind of stuff. So having that as a piece of our story here, I think is important as well. There's also some plastic circles that have gold foil on them, and I added that onto, I know at least one, the picture of the kids playing Foursquare there, and then I think I'm going to put it on another one using a label sticker. Those always I come back to those again and again as such a good way to hold little additional pieces of the story. And this approach, I would say, for the way that I'm approaching this Project Life spread is really great for using things that are in your stash too. Pulling out random embellishments that you have and just being able to add those onto your projects rather than waiting for the perfect opportunity to use them, I think is always a great way to approach this as well. Doing a little bit of hand journaling just on the garden update card there, talking about what was happening in the yard at that point in time, which around here is like wisteria and daffodils. I did have a big picture of a handful of daffodils that I considered using as a 9x12 insert here. I think I'm actually going to use it in a story kit coming up for transitions. I kept it and I'm going to use it for that instead. But again, adding just hand journal. I love the combination of the handwritten journaling along with the typed journaling. I think I've long liked that as a piece of the process to have a little bit of both. Stories get told in a variety of different kinds of ways. Adding on another little label sticker there, just designating that was the new shower that we did. Again, just little bits of information that if somebody was flipping through, it would tell them something specific about the reason why I even included that photo in the first place there. All right, so as always, if you have any questions about Project Life in this format, let me know, and we'll see you guys back here again soon.